Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for being here. My name is SUSANNAH LOHR, and I would love to tell you all about the antimatter zone. That's what I call myself and the work I make. I've always loved collecting the things I like around me. I use the stuff I collect as inspiration, mood boards, a disorganized personal library of my aesthetic. I've realized there is meaning in the things I am drawn to. It is not random. There are reasons, literal and symbolic, for the imagery that I use. As a teen, I found I could not access all of the music, art, films, and other media I wanted. Many were either financially inaccessible to me or had little to no distribution on or offline. I discovered torrenting, peer-to-peer networks, file sharing, and other means. These workarounds opened the world to me. Gaining access to obscure art inspired me and helped me to push the limits of my imagination at a young age. Though I want to add, I firmly believe in artists getting paid for their work. I also believe we should strive for a society with open access to knowledge and creative work, where artists get paid to make their art for all people to enjoy. Throughout my 20s, I developed an obsession with a similar thrill of the unknown and mining the edges for the obscure, which I found in secondhand stores and thrift shopping. Bins of books by the pound, tossed away as virtually worthless detritus, found new meaning in my eyes. To me, this was prime research material. My collections are continuously rotating. I don't keep everything I salvage, but over the years, I've boiled it down to a collection that I deeply love and refer to constantly. These days, I've found new meaning in using these resources I have hoarded and generated over the years. I scan or pull out what I need as I need it and make collages with these. I found that making visual collections digital allows me greater freedom in what I make and in what form. Here's the process I use to go from some prints of disposable camera photos of New York City to digital collaging to sculpture. So these are some pages from a zine on the left here that I made about my collage process. And on the right is a some finished sculptural lamps that I designed and built from those collages. So my rat-like hoarding is pretty unorganized. I'm prone to obsessions with which my passion cools, but never disappears completely. My interests eventually intertwine though. Though I'm primarily an illustrator and 2D artist, I love exploring a variety of media. This past year, I'm working digitally a lot. And with COVID-19 keeping many of us confined, I'm finding greater freedom again in digital media. I'm interested in how the world is changing and trying to envision what we want the future to look like. For me, collage is taking the parts of something that you like and fusing them all together into a composition that works. Much of my work is a combination of realism and fantasy. In this comic, I'm using visual metaphor to tell a story about the effects of trauma. And these are 2 pages from a comic I completed during an artist residency in Finland in 2018. So these are all pencil drawings, which I scanned and then formed into a comic layout. I got into making zines like so many other people because they're very easy to produce. They're cheap, small scale, and low stakes. I've used them to organize my thoughts and ideas into a physical format for easy distribution. It's also a nice way to experiment with narrative ideas. So here are this is the full comic and some images of the actual physical zine. So this is my modern adaptation of Shirley Jackson's short story, Elizabeth, which is about a woman in middle age who is lonely and disillusioned by her increasingly alienated society. And she only finds meaning in her life through fantasy. So here are 2 more examples of some zines I've created. And these are sort of quicker, more character studies and set design experiments. So I've recently begun to use collage in my visual narrative process. So in my short digital comic called Lita, which I finished in March of this year, I actually used collage to help me refine the imagery that I used and edit the content of the story. So the two animations on the left are showing my actual collage editing process. Though it was a digital piece, I actually printed out my thumbnails and worked with them like a collage in a narrative way. So this story is a modern feminist reinterpretation of the Leda and the Swan myth. And I found that the symbols in the story related to events in my own life, and I chose to fuse the myth and my reality in yet another sort of collage. I'm really fascinated by creating characters who are out of sync with the world around them, characters who are facing forces outside of their control or understanding, and how they find balance in those or get swept up in them. The characters I am most interested in writing about are those who must face their own flaws through visual metaphor. So in the next 8 months, I will be developing my MFA thesis, a 5-chapter web-based graphic novel. I plan to unite all of the pieces of my process: research, collage, animation, narrative art, and a deeply personal story. My latest work involves extensive visual research on the natural cave systems beneath the city of St. Louis, collaging my own illustrations, animation, and sound, all to tell a story. My protagonist, Lily Fernsby, is a 20-year-old art student who moved to the city of Northside for art school about 3 years ago. In this story, Lily joins a vampire cult, escapes from it, and learns what love really is. I will tell this story through contrasts: the hidden and the revealed, the occult and the overt, the vampires and the humans. Lily will go between these two worlds and have to face her own flaws and inner conflicts in order to survive. Thank you all so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to hearing any questions you may have and keeping in touch. Feel free to email me or follow me on Instagram or visit my website. Thank you. If any of you have any questions or any comments or anything, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Susanna, you mentioned about the collage technique you employ to make your piece. You actually work physically, right? You cut and you re-edit. It reminds me of old days of film editing. You had to cut
Oh,
each
right.
single film and then attach to that.
Oh, very interesting point. Yeah, that's really, and that really is how it felt to edit that way in for a web format. That's really kind of, I guess, what my goal was, to make it sort of film-like in terms of narrative.
So will your thesis be about like a storytelling, like based on the character you just showed us?
Yeah. So my MFA program is called Visual Narrative, and it's a program at SVA, and so really the program is focused on it's sort of a writing and visual narrative hybrid. So it's using visual formats like film is one of them, comics, children's books. And everything, anything and everything in between, in order to tell a story. So yeah, I'm writing the story. Spent this summer really developing the framework for the story, and so the upcoming months, I'm going to be really, writing a script and then creating the artwork.
How do you see this interesting time? Do we spend more time to make art if we become more productive in a way?
I would absolutely say I've been more productive. Yeah, because like you said, you can't, spending time with friends is really very different, and it's not as, it's a little more alien, sort of staring into a computer screen versus actually being present with someone. So yeah, I find I spend a much greater percentage of my time working.
What kind of mentor or techniques do your colleagues, your peers work with? digitally or something like you kind of mix both?
It's very, yes, there is a lot of I think a lot of people use a mixture. Um, Many people in my class are illustrators as well. And so a lot of people do comics, and, you know, everyone kind of has their own unique way of translating. You know, some people still draw, actually physically draw out all of their images and scan them in and work with that. But, you know, so many other people used tablets and other things so that they can physically draw with the pen, but it's digital. So there's, yeah, pretty wide range techniques, I would say. Thank you so much. Bye.